you just don't want to go back. You just don't want to. I just can't imagine going back to eating anything like that.
Trevor, how did you find carnivore?
Yeah, the great question, Dave. It was actually my ex-wife that um, suggested I have a look at a book called Eat Bacon, Don't Jog. And So I had a look at that. And well, actually, I'll just go back a little bit further. At one stage there, I think it was 2022. I was getting quite heavy, overweight and stuff like that. And we were going out, we were planning to go out for a motorcycle ride. And believe it or not, I couldn't bend down enough to pull my bike boots up. And my then wife had to do that for me. And I thought, gosh, this is not good, you know. And then I went out for, I think it was a few weeks later, I went out for a ride with the club with the other guys, and we stopped somewhere scenic, and one of the guys took a photo of us. And when I saw the photo, if I was another 2 inches taller, I would have been square. And it just really shocked me, you know. It was just like, oh my gosh, that's actually me. I got, wow, I just couldn't believe it, you know. So I thought, well, I just need to, you know, obviously do something about that. And that was about that time that Catherine said to me, look at this book, um, Eat Bacon, Don't Jog. And I thought, oh, that's really interesting, you know. So I had a look at that, and I thought, okay, obviously fell into keto first, and found a few things out about processed food and all that horrible sort of stuff. And so I started dropping a lot of the of that processed food and everything else. I was addicted to bread. Basically, it was my favourite go to. Um, and So yeah, started dropping that, and then started. It took a little while, but started to lose a bit of weight. And I thought, this is interesting. This is working, you know. So I got more into it, and the deeper I went into it, the better I felt, the more weight I dropped. And then I started really looking into it much, much deeper. And of course, carnivore started popping up, and people like yourself were being introduced to me on by YouTube, and Sean Baker, Ken Berry, Steak and Butter Gal. So I started looking at the videos, and I thought, yes, surely you can't just live on meat. Surely not, you know. And then I found that well, these people have been doing this for years, you know, so, and they look healthy, and you know, so I thought, well, you know what, I'll give it a go. So I started doing that, and that was sort of late 2022. Yes, it was, yeah, here in Auckland, and um, yeah, so things went from there, and I started feeling much, much better. I found um, I could bend over. I could sort of, like, you know, touch the ground again. Like, I just couldn't do that before, you know. um, and so it was going really well. And unfortunately, my wife and I, well, my ex-wife, we're no longer in touch anymore. Unfortunately, as different reasons. But so yeah, anyway, so everything was going really well, and I was driving buses for a living. And then I started to get a sore neck on this side. It was like really, really sore, and I thought it was, to start with, I thought it was just a like, you know, when you get a draft on your neck if you've been sleeping in with an open window or a car or something like that, you know, and you get a draft. It was like that sort of pain, but two or three times worse. And anyway, the pain just got worse and worse and worse, to the point where I thought, I've just got to go and see what's going on. There's definitely something going on here, you know. So I went along to the doctors and that, and um, I told him how bad the pain was getting, and it was just not going away. And he said, oh, okay, we'll do a scan. But he said it's 6 months waiting list to go, like, to get a scan publicly. And I thought, well, I can't wait 6 months, you know. So we went private, um, and so they did a scan on me, and it turned out that I had a 2-inch by 2-inch tumor under my tongue on this side. It was horrendous, and at that stage the pain was getting so bad that I was on tramadol and all sorts of nasty drugs and things, Anyway, so they decided to. This is now 20. This is 2023. Yeah, so this is like kind of midwinter, June, July, 2023. So they did the scan. They sent me to a specialist, and he put a camera in my nose and down to the back of my throat. And the words he said were just it was he just went, "Cancer, stage 4, inoperable." That's what he said. And I was like, wow, oh, crikey, this is just like, what a shock, absolute shock, Um, so I said, okay, well, let me know. I want to know, like, how long have I got? This is just crazy. And he said, well, if you don't do anything about it, if you elect not to do anything, you've probably got like 3 to 6 months, 12 months maximum. A big shock, massive shock. So anyway, they sent me off to hospital to get the chemotherapy and the radiation therapy. And of course, once I was in hospital, I couldn't eat because where this cancer was, they had to put a feeding tube in me. So then obviously I was off the carnivore diet. I was on the Ensure, and I think I was on that for about 4 or 5 months altogether on Ensure. And I couldn't eat a thing. It was just all going through the tube. And eventually, when I got through the treatment and the tumor had disappeared, fortunately, and I was still on the Ensure. And then when I got home eventually, and I managed to get. Oh, actually, it was when I came out of hospital. Sorry, about 2 weeks later, or 2.5 weeks later, something like that, I got Stephen Johnson's syndrome. So yeah, Stephen Johnson syndrome. That's not very nice.
What
And
is Stephen Johnson syndrome?
it's in my case, it was a clash between gabapentin, I think it is, and the radiation therapy that I was going through. And it's very rare. It can be fatal. And yeah, that was it for me. Really, was the clash between those two treatments. Um, so yeah, so I was back in hospital for 2.5 weeks with that. So I was still on the Ensure at that stage. Anyway, I finally managed to get through all that. So I've been through quite a bit in the last year or so. Yeah. Um, and then I found I started looking at what's actually in Ensure, what the ingredient and the list of ingredients in that is just unbelievable. I mean, it keeps you alive, but I mean, it's full of soy, it's full of carbohydrates, it's absolutely full of rubbish, I think. Um, so I started going like, oh, I don't even want this anymore. So,
I'm just imagining a concoction of canola oil, tofu, and sugar, or
yes,
something
yep,
like that.
yep, yep. Canola oil, sunflower oil, you name it, it's in it. Yeah. Um, so I thought, well, I need to get off this Ensure. I really do. At that stage, actually, they'd taken the feeding tube out, and because I was able to actually drink it at that stage, because the tumor had reduced, so I could actually swallow liquids again. Anyway, so I thought, well, I need to get off this stuff, and what can I do to eat to sustain myself? I thought, well, I tried eating meat again, and I couldn't chew it. All the food I was trying to eat just went into a ball of food, and I couldn't swallow it. It was just difficult. And they were worried about me actually choking because of where this cancer was in my back of my throat. Anyway, so I eventually discovered that I can eat scrambled eggs. Um, and I thought, well, okay, well, let's just have a look at that. So I found out, yeah, I could probably live on eggs. Um, and um, and I thought, I still want to eat meat. I still want to get back into eating meat. So then I found that if I tried some sliced ham, so I know it's processed meat, but it's not as bad as they say. You know, like Dr. Ken Berry says, yeah, just eat any sort of meat, and you'd be better off than eating the standard
It's cer
American diet.
it's certainly better than ensure.
Yeah, yes, yeah, that's right. So I tried eating ham, sliced ham, and I looked carefully in the supermarkets and that which one is from New Zealand meat, because so much of I don't know why they need to import meat into New Zealand. It's just ridiculous. But when you look on the back of the packet, there it's like a lot of it is this meat may come from these countries, and it gives you a list of about 10 countries where it may have come from. So I always look at the ones that are just from New Zealand grown meat. So so these days, pretty much I live on sliced ham, sliced corn silverside, and eggs cooked in butter, and cream with coffee, and the odd beer now and then. That's it. That's all I live on.
And so what is the status of the cancer at the moment?
It's gone, but I'm left with a my tongue is half numb on one side. It has affected my speech slightly. I do. To me, it sounds like I've got a bit of a lisp. But other people say no, you haven't. But to me, it sounds like it on some words. You know, it's slightly affected my speech. Um, it's yeah, like I say, it's left my tongue half numb, um, and if I try and put my tongue out, it always goes off to one side. You know, I can't put my tongue out very far, and yeah, it's just I've got used to it. It's a bit uncomfortable, but I've got used to it now. And they say it could take up to 2 years before it probably will never come right, but I'll probably get about 90% of the feeling back into it, you know. And yeah, that's how it is at the moment. So, um, but also, I having this cancer, to me, it's a blessing in disguise, really, because it's kind of forced me to stay on carnivore diet, which perhaps if I didn't have this cancer, and I might have fallen off the wagon. You never know, you know, like so many people do. So it's kind of forced me to eat this way, um, and I'm kind of grateful in a way that I did get it because of that. You know, I've lost at my heaviest, I was 115 kilos. Now I'm down to 75. Um,
Oh, that's
yeah,
a dramatic change.
yeah, yeah. It's been life changing, absolutely life changing. I once I when I got the cancer, I because I'm going to be 65 at the end of March, and when I got the cancer, I decided I didn't want to work anymore. You know, I just thought, no, I don't want to drive buses anymore, because you're always looking in the mirrors, and my neck was so sore, and yeah, I was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. You know? So I'm due to retire in about 6 weeks or so. Um, um, so yeah, it was kind of like a blessing in disguise. Having dropped all that weight. Oh, that's right. I went back into work just to say hello, and then they invited me to the Christmas party at the recent Christmas party that they had, and some of them just didn't even recognise me. They just like, who are you? I mean, like, honestly, they were like, you know me. I don't know you. And I said, yeah, well, they called me George. I go by George or Trevor, and they called me George at the when I was at work, and they didn't recognise me. Didn't, and I said, yeah, it's George, and they go like, oh my god, it was yeah, very very interesting. So with that,
Right.
I've managed to get another couple of guys that work there onto carnivore as well, and but they're kind of like struggling to stay on it. They're kind of like going, "Oh, I keep sort of like wanting a sandwich or a pie or something like that." I'm just kind of like, "Don't do it. Just don't do it." You've seen how it's helped me. Like I was as big as you guys, and look at me now. Um, and they're going like, "Yeah, we know, but it's so difficult." And I said, "Well, just stick with it because when you get to a certain stage, I found anyway, when you get to a certain length of time being on carnivore, you just don't want to go back. You just don't want to. I just can't imagine going back to eating anything like that. And like I said before, for me, it's a blessing in disguise because I actually can't go back to eating like that. So it's worked out well for me. Um, yeah, so that's that's the
Yeah.
status at the moment. Yeah.
That so along the way, you must have noticed, apart from the weight loss, you must have noticed a change after being on this Ensure concoction for months, and then going to eating actually real food. You must have noticed a difference in things like energy or sleep or things like that. No.
Oh, absolutely, yes. I mean, like the energy is just, my energy is just incredible. Like, obviously, when I was sick in hospital, obviously, and even when I was out of hospital, I was still having to go back in for chemotherapy on a sort of like weekly basis and all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, at that time, obviously, my energy was pretty low. Um, just felt tired all the time and obviously not well. But now, crikey, I've just got so much energy now. I'm out. I really enjoy sailing radio-controlled yachts. That's my favourite thing to do. Um, so that gets me out walking up and down the lake with the other guys and having a bit of laugh. So I do that 2 or 3 times a week now. So it's quite enjoyable. So yeah, so get a bit of exercise out in the sun. I only eat once a day, usually around about sort of 9 or 10 in the morning. And I just drink water during the day. I have 2 cups of coffee in the morning with cream. Um, so yeah, that's yeah, that's
Well,
with that.
so
Mm.
how long has it been since you had your last chemo?
Um, what sort of chemo? That would have been around about April last year, 2024. Yeah,
Oh, okay. And
yeah.
do you? I mean, because I have no experience with this, but from people I talk to in interviews they see elsewhere, that knocks you around a lot, right?
Oh yes, yeah, absolutely. Uh, the first few sessions of chemo didn't really affect me too much. I felt okay, but later on, I used to come home and I'd be throwing up in the sink. Literally, a couple of times because they they give you a free taxi trip to the hospital and back. And I remember one time though, I was nearly home and in the back of the taxi, and I was going like, "Oh, come on, let's go because I'm going to be sick in your taxi if I need to get home." So I made it back, and then straight away, straight into the sink, and chucking up everywhere. It's just horrible. They actually they said to me the last bout of chemo they were going to give me. They said, "No, we don't think we'll do it," because they gave me the maximum amount of radiation that they could, and also the maximum amount of chemo because the tumor was so large. It wasn't visible from the outside. It was just all right in the back of my throat. Like I say, it was 2 inches by 2 inches, like a soft kind of ball, basically. Um, and yeah, so the chemo definitely does knock you about. Yeah, for sure. Yep. Yep.
And at that point, you were had transitioned over to eating carnivore.
No, at that stage, I was still on inshore.
This is criminal. Like
Mm,
they're literally poisoning you to get the cancer away,
yep.
and they're also poisoning you by giving you canola oil and soy. It's so po- so take with one hand and take with the other as well. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yep. Yep. It's like now, I'm not on any meds whatsoever. I've always had a history of high blood pressure, and I was always the doctors were always going, "Oh, your blood pressure's high. Your blood pressure's high." You know, so they had me on blood pressure pills and all that. But I never wanted to take them. But I thought, well, they know, you know, so I took them. And the last time I went to the doctors, which was oh, 2 or 3 months ago now, I try and avoid it as much as I can these days. Um, so he checked my blood pressure and he said, "Oh, your blood pressure's like way down. You don't, well, not down, but I mean, it's not high, you know." And he said, "Well, you don't need to be on blood pressure pills anymore." And I went, "Well, actually, I'm not. I've been taking them anyway."
Surprise. That's awesome. Oh, that's excellent. So
Mm.
without the pills, you were just it was a normal reading. It was like 120 over something or something like that.
Yeah, it was something like that. Yeah, it was absolutely perfect. You know, so I'm not on any pain medications anymore, um, and I feel like I'm just curing myself just by eating the carnivore diet that I can eat, which is not what everyone can eat. I mean, ideally, I'd like to eat a steak if I could, but I just can't chew it. But I'm living the carnivore lifestyle that currently suits me. So with that, I feel like I'm curing myself um, and keeping the cancer at bay. Hopefully, it doesn't come back. But by not eating all the processed food and the inshore, I'm not kind of feeding the cancer, if you know what I mean. You
And do you take any supplements or electrolytes or anything like that?
know. No, not really. I was at one stage, but I thought I don't really need it. I mean, I just have I sprinkle my scrambled eggs with Himalayan salt, um, and sometimes I mean I will. I mean it's kind of weird now because I find that Himalayan salt on scrambled eggs it almost tastes sweet. You know, my taste buds have changed so much. It almost tastes sweet. It sounds weird because like it's salt, but it actually tastes quite nice. I just could not imagine having anything like ice cream or something like that. It would just be so sweet, it would be disgusting, you know. So yeah, so I don't currently take any electrolytes or anything like that, and I feel perfectly fine. I don't feel any problem at all, you know.
Yeah.
Mm. Mm.
So for you, this feels like this is the way forward. There's no going back.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, no going back whatsoever. Absolutely not. You know, and also, I mean, people go, "Oh, it's so expensive, isn't it? It must be expensive living on you know, on just meat and eggs." And I go, "Well, no, it's not because you're not buying all the other crap that they try and sell you, you know." It's
Yeah.
so, it's,
It always makes me laugh. Oh, it must be so expensive. What you mean?
mm,
Not buying garbage every 2 hours? That's more expensive, is it?
yeah, that's right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
it makes sense in so many ways because, like, yeah, you know, like you say, you're not buying all the other garbage and eating every 2 or 3 hours and it's, you know, silly things like 6 meals a day. It's just ridiculous. You know, you don't need to eat like that, you know. Um, and, you know, you save on toilet paper and you know, all that sort of stuff.
Well, I always
Um,
laugh when I think back to the beginning of the pandemic, where everyone's running around buying like shopping cart loads of toilet paper. And it's like, if I was carnivore back then, that would have been so comical to me because like all I would be doing is filling up the shopping cart with beef, right? I wouldn't be worried about the
yeah,
toilet
that's
paper.
right. Exactly.
Give me a roll and I'll be good for a couple of months, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's it's great that you've found this way of eating and got away from the junk they were giving you in hospital and afterwards.
Mm.
So I wondered, Trevor, if you'd be interested in coming back on in maybe 3 months or 6 months to see how things are going.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, yep.
Yeah. Because also one thing I'm really interested in is if like there's enough healing at some point for you to get to the point where you can actually, have small pieces of steak or something like
Hmm.
that. It would be
Yeah,
really, really interesting to see how that progresses.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I'd like to. I do occasionally try. I try some ground beef and stuff like that, but I just um, it's hard to explain it. It's just because even ground beef, it still needs chewing, and I just struggle with chewing. But I find with the thinly sliced ham, it's actually quite soft, so I can just you know it almost goes down like scrambled eggs. But yeah, every now and then, I will just try just thinly slicing a piece of beef up and cooking it in the air fryer or whatever, and trying that. But even if I cut it into small pieces, I still struggle to. I almost need to literally swallow it. Like the eggs just go straight down, the ham just goes straight down, and I can't do that with beef, unfortunately. But every now and then, I'll give it a go. Like so hopefully I'll be able to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. So in the meantime, if people want to reach out to you, how can they get in contact? Do you have any social media or any other way of getting in contact?
Um, Not, I don't really have any social media. I mean, I've got email. That's pretty much it, really. Um, so if anybody wants to email me, I'm more than happy to, accept that.
I'll include your email in the show notes.
Hmm.
Trevor, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate your time.
It's been a pleasure, Dave. Thank you very much for inviting me. It's been great, and hopefully your videos continue. I'm sure they will, and everyone's getting a lot of great information from you and your guests. And it's just wonderful to be part of the carnivore community.